The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to have with me today Jennifer Fondrevay. Jennifer's really an exceptional individual. She has done TED Talks. She has written books. She's an expert in mergers and acquisitions. And one of the reasons why I really wanted her on the show is to talk about the human side of mergers and acquisitions, because a lot changes for people. So with that, let me introduce Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me, Linda.
Yeah, we had such a good time in DC, didn't we?
We did. We did. I covet your shoes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. They were kind of cute. I've had them for years, actually. Oh, they kind of that pink. So tell me, what got you into the M&A work? It's tough work.
It is. I know I've been asked, what's a nice girl like you doing in mergers and acquisitions?
It can be bloody.
I would say, yes, the bigger the billions, the bigger the bloodbath.
Right.
Phrase that I've heard someone else say. I was a corporate chief marketing officer.
Oh.
And I went through 3 multi-billion-dollar merger and acquisition deals. And I've been on all sides of the deal table. I've been acquired. I've been part of the team brought in post-acquisition. And I've been acquired by private equity, which Linda, I'm sure you know, is its own unique experience. So
Definitely
it was really through those 3 experiences that I decided to write a book. I'd have to confess, my colleagues in the second acquisition in particular, because I had been acquired and now I was leading a team that had been acquired, and my colleagues just kept saying, man, you really should write a book. Like, you seem to know how to get people inspired and moving forward. And because I just kept saying, well, I've been them. I know what it's like when you're acquired, and it's a journey. And you need the right kind of leadership and guide to help you on it. So that's really what got me into it.
And that's a good space, because usually when people are in, I used to work for GE Capital, and that was our life's blood, was buying other businesses. And we always said, oh, this is a merger of equals. And it's never true.
No.
As you know, and there's winners and losers. And, dealing with the human side is essential. So what were some of the lessons that you learned about people and how you had to deal with people in all of that?
Well, I think, what's interesting, and we'll just start with what you said about your time at GE Capital. The intentions are always good, right? You say you're a merger of equals because you want people to feel okay, and you want them to not think this is the worst thing ever. But one of the things that I have found, and it's what I coach my clients on, is being transparent and recognizing that this is a journey for people. I think, Linda, you and I even talked about this a little bit. When your whole identity has been wrapped up in your company, and now it's merging with or being acquired by, or even frankly, when you acquire, there is a change in your future, and you don't know what the change is going to be. So you suffer what's known as ambiguous loss, because we all imagine a pretty kick-ass future for ourselves when we're up and comers and contributing. And so when that future comes into question, you suffer ambiguous loss because you don't know what that future will be. And it's why the work that I do is really focused on the leadership, how to help people navigate this, how to help humans navigate this, and how to actually help yourself.
Yeah.
It as well.
You know, it strikes me as you say that ambiguous loss, that almost deals with every part of somebody's life. You know,
Absolutely.
they're losing a job, often in a merger, or at least a job where they were personally identified with. You know, you're getting divorced, you're, you
Yeah.
know, moving your area. How do you help people, you know, deal with that ambiguous loss? How do you help them move forward? Because a lot of people, that's very hard.
So, and it was divine inspiration, I really have to say, because if I were to have this idea come to me again, I don't know if it would. But when I was writing my book back in 2018, 2019, I thought exactly as you did. When have I felt these feelings of anger and depression and bargaining? And I thought, you know, it was a bad breakup.
Right, right, right,
And so I thought,
right.
well, help me get through that. Music, you know, little Led
Yeah.
Zeppelin, AC/DC, Frank Sinatra, and Anita Baker. And so
Oh,
I thought,
nice playlist.
what if I use that same tool, right? You had mixtapes back then. So I had
Mm-hmm.
mixtapes to help me get through the moments. And so in my book, I have music, a playlist, a Spotify playlist called From Denial to Acceptance to help
Oh,
you get
wow.
through each of the stages. And one of the more profound experiences that I've had, which shocked me, Linda, I was not
Mm-hmm.
expecting. I thought, oh, I don't know how this is going to go over, but I have people make a playlist in real time. So when I'm working with a company that's just been acquired, or even frankly, as the acquirer, I have them make a playlist. They pick 3 songs: the song that best describes how they felt when they first heard the news, a song that best describes how they feel right now, and a song that best describes how they want to feel 90 days from now. And it's
Wow.
really, it's amazing for a number of reasons. One, because people realize they're not alone in the feelings that they're going through. And they also, everyone picks a different song, right? So it helps you as a leader to understand everyone is going through this in a different way. You know, so I've heard everything from take this job and shove it to
Shove it.
Miley Cyrus, right?
That might be mine.
All, or, you know, can't stop believing, you know, a lot of Journey, Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
And so it's a wonderful moment for people in a company to realize, okay, I'm not going crazy. These are legitimate feelings, and we can get through this together. And so for me, that's been one of the more powerful things that I unintentionally did, and has made my keynotes in particular well known in M&A circles because of that
Yeah.
exercise.
Yeah, that's a great exercise. I really love it. I could see where you could use that in a lot of places. You know, so
Absolutely.
so tell me, how did you reinvent yourself?
Oh God, I'm still it's a work in progress. So
Yeah.
particularly because, as my dad jokes, when I was 8, I had planned to be ambassador to France. So
Wow. Do you speak French?
I do. My father's French.
Oh,
So
how cool.
this point, he just thinks I'm on a very circuitous path to ambassadorship. But we spoke French at home. I went to Thunderbird International Business School, all with the
Mm-hmm.
being ambassador to France. And thank God I had a really kind professor who asked me one day, so what do you plan to do when you graduate from Thunderbird? And I said, oh, I'm going to be ambassador to France. And he was,
After you stop laughing.
right, it was very kind. And he just said, you know, Jennifer, if anyone could do it, you could. He said, but you
Right.
might have a fallback plan. And he said, and you're really sharp in marketing. I don't know. I would just propose that. So my first chapter was actually in advertising, 15 years in advertising. The next chapter was marketing, where I went through my M&A deals. And then this third chapter, mergers and acquisitions, I never imagined I would be doing this. Never.
Yeah.
It was, I didn't like consultants. I'll be the first to say, because I'd been on the receiving end of consultants who I thought, you just don't get it, what this feels like to try and help your
Mm-hmm.
team navigate a very emotional period in a company's journey and in your career. So for me, the reinvention, I think, really was just taking a leap of faith. I had interviewed so many CEOs for my book, and they kept saying, what are you doing besides the book? And I'm sure, Linda, you probably can appreciate this. I kept saying to them, do you know how hard it is to write a book? Like, I was just proud I wrote a book, right?
Yeah, I'm just lucky I got it done.
Yeah. And so I was, at that time, I was just planning to be another marketing exec at another company when a CEO thankfully just said, he said, I love this book. It is what doesn't get talked about enough, but it dooms deals. There's not enough attention to the people part. He said, but to be honest, no one's going to run to Barnes and Nobles to buy your book because they're going to be too busy trying to hold on to their job or figure out which end is up. So you need to be the catalyst, and you need to build a business around this to help leaders, C-suite executives really understand what it takes to lead people through this transition. So I would have to say that that was a catalyst. I also, in the summer of 2017, thought I had breast cancer. Thankfully, I did not.
Good.
But there's nothing like a medical scare to say, what am I doing? Like, I can't straddle. I was writing the book while interviewing. And so I, like I said, enough signs just said, Jennifer, go for it. Give this a try. You're passionate about helping people. And, the CEO is right. The book wouldn't do it alone.
Right. I mean, it always feels like a great accomplishment to get the book done, and you think, oh, well, that was my big career step, but it's not. Were you scared?
Absolutely.
Stepping out there?
Terrified.
Yeah.
Terrified. Because I had grown up in corporate. I had had the privilege of being at blue chip ad agencies, J. Walter Thompson and Foote Cone and Belding, which actually, frankly, don't exist anymore
That's true.
because of mergers and acquisitions.
Right.
Irony of my life. And in my marketing experience, I really loved marketing. And frankly, I know it's what's helped me cut through in the work that I do now. But it was a calling. I know that sounds odd, but I just thought there's a reason I felt inspired to write this book, to create a Spotify playlist. I have 10 caricatures in the book, so I bring to life the personas that emerge during a merger and acquisition. All these creative ideas, I thought, it's a message. I need to do something with this. And I'm not sure what the next chapter holds.
I was going to ask you that. What do you see as sort of your next?
I would like to teach in the merger and acquisition space. I had actually created an M&A Center of Excellence. I had planned to move forward with. I won't go into the details. And so that is what I think is truly the next step. I realized I deal with the symptoms of mergers and acquisitions.
Right.
You need to go upstream, as Dan Heath said, if you've ever read his book Upstream, right? So what causes the problem upstream?
Right.
And I would say, I'm not going to change Wall Street and how companies are incentivized and rewarded, understandably, but I could help companies learn to better prepare their leadership through an executive education program.
Right.
Train people and help them understand that change management and culture piece is as important as the due diligence and quality of earnings and the value creation.
Yeah.
They're all combined together. So that's kind of, if I were to have a crystal ball, that's what I hope I would see.
Yeah. I personally think that the people side is really the most important side. Putting together the balance sheets, putting together the processes and all that stuff. You have teams that do that. I mean, that becomes self-evident. What do you take out here? What do you put in here? But it's the people that is the most critical aspect of all of this. So what did you personally learn about yourself in going through all of this? You thought this was going to be easy, huh?
I feel like I'm going to have to pay you for the therapy session after.
Yeah.
I think I'm more resilient. I thought I was resilient. I mean, going through a merger and acquisition tests you in ways that you never anticipate. And it's why people ask me a lot, do you work? This is awesome, right? They love my music exercise and the personas and all of that. Do you work in just change and transformation? I do, but my specialty is really a merger and acquisition because, Linda, as you know, you have to experience to understand the unique ups and downs, the emotional roller coaster that people can be on as you navigate this part of a company's chapter. And so for me, what I learned about myself is the resiliency of that I thought tested me, but to be an entrepreneur, particularly when you get I don't want to say the door's been slammed. Fortunately, I can be pretty persuasive and charming.
Oh, we know
always
that
see it,
part.
but
We know that.
but I can't tell you how many times where people would say, "Oh, the people are so important," but we're all good, right? We have smart people. We can lead this, thank you. And so they'll take my card, they'll take my book, they'll come back later on when things have gone sideways and, they've lost some great talent, they've lost time and productivity. So for me, resiliency and persistence, just not giving up. I didn't know I would be as persistent, as tenacious as I have turned out to be. And as my dad tells me, you don't take an easy path anytime, Jennifer. So, for me, that's been it.
You showing what your dad knew all along about you. Is it persistence and flexibility? And what I find so interesting, obviously New Capital was a big mergers and acquisition company. That's how it got built, actually. And it's so funny. We did a lot of research there, and we looked at what acquisitions actually fulfilled the pro forma. Actually did what we said it was going to do and make money and all of that. And every one of the places where we did not have an intensive people strategy, the acquisition did not make pro forma. They were huge flops.
So Linda, you're gonna be my new testimonial, because that's, you and I both know that is indeed the case. You have to have that people strategy.
You absolutely must. And so how do you convince the leaders? Because that's really where it starts. For them, they probably know where they're going to end up at the end of the day. They were either out the door with a big package or whatever. But how do you convince the leaders that they really need to spend time, really, energy and money, but it's more the time and energy on it? How do you convince them that this is critical to the longer term success?
So here's the toughest lesson I have learned. You don't. You don't.
Oh, wow.
I have spent years, Linda. I write for Harvard Business Review and Fast Company and Forbes. I'm on wonderful shows like yours and podcasts. I'm a speaker. What I have learned over that time is I attract the right kind of leaders who say people are important. They are the lifeblood of this company, and this won't be successful unless I bring you or another, human capital advisor. I'd like to think I'm unique, though, in that I do.
You are unique, Jennifer.
Keynotes and workshops, but I would love to tell you, here's what you do to convince them. I think, fortunately, particularly the articles have them see, oh, there's another way to do this, one that's better, where we could retain the talent, where we wouldn't have that productivity drop, where we maintain the momentum. But what I've learned is leaders have to be open to that and recognize the value of their people. Otherwise, you waste time. You waste precious time. And that was a really hard lesson for me to learn. I'm just thankful through the work that I do, I attract the right types of leaders who have that vision and understand that they have to have a people strategy.
Well, that's sort of like what Marshall always says, pick the right leaders to coach, because you can't coach somebody who's not coachable. And you can't work with an organization that really doesn't see the value in all of this. Are you willing to walk away? Have you walked away?
I've learned to do it. It's hard because I think, and I suspect you're the same way. I always think, maybe if I do the PowerPoint this way, or I write the memo this way, then they'll understand. If I show statistics, that go back to the, 20 years ago versus just the last 5 years, I keep thinking, but I have gotten to a point, fortunately, because I have attracted so many leaders who go, you are what we need. I just realized It takes up too much time and energy. So yes,
Hmm.
I have learned to walk away.
Wow. Wow. What advice would you have for, I'm going to say women, and not because I'm typically in that space, but mergers and acquisitions are a hard thing. Working with senior leaders at the top of the house is a hard thing. I know that. You know
Yes.
that. Being a woman in those kinds of situations where 90% of the team are female, maybe the human resource person is a female, maybe the
Yeah.
marketing person, but most of them are men.
Yes.
How do you navigate that?
Well, I'm so glad you asked me this question. And I wrote about it in
Mm,
Forbes. I
mm-hmm.
said, women are a secret weapon in mergers and acquisitions. So what my advice is women lean into your superpowers, because what I see is women have so much unique superpowers to bring to a deal, frankly, to business in general. But since we're on the topic of M&A, women's intuition when they suppress it and say, oh, that's just silly. But what I say to women is that's data. You've been
Mm-hmm.
gathering that data since you were born. So when you think, gosh, something doesn't feel right, that guy in the deal at the deal table, there's something I just doesn't add up. That is intuition. And that is because you have been accumulating data that says, there's something about this that doesn't work. People also open up to women more than they open up to men. So I've had more women tell me stories about someone from the deal team who revealed something that was very influential in terms of how they approach the deal. And women
Wow.
also simplify things so that everyone can understand. They make the communication easier to understand what it is that's happening, where people are going, what's being done. And so I identified the 5 superpowers that women bring, because my hope is, Linda, that rather than suppress these superpowers, that women will lean into them even more, and that they will become the norm, that it will
Mm.
be that it will be just common behavior in how you approach deals. And so it's been wonderful. Once I wrote that article, it took off. It's one of the most viral articles that I've written, and I've been invited to go and speak to women's groups about these superpowers, because as you said, you know, it's the majority of these deals are run by
Male
men.
dominated. Yep.
And frankly, the men who I interviewed for the article said, oh my God, I hope women lean into these superpowers even more, because they make such a huge difference in our ability to get the deal done.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm going to ask you those superpowers in just a second, but I also find that once people start getting into the deal, even if they're starting to recognize it's not the best deal, they can't let it go because
Yeah.
they're already down that path. And I've seen that happen numerous times. What do you do about that? I mean, can you put the skids on things? I mean, can you say, because emotionally people are invested. And to get them uninvested emotionally is very difficult. I think that's one of the women's superpowers, honestly.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, and it's one of the things I talked about, right? Women anticipate the consequences, right? Here's what's going to happen. That's almost scenario planning that we do in our heads. And so, yeah, the reality is, and I coach C-suite executives around that very thing. Even if you put the skids on, the toothpaste is out of the tube. You can't put it back in. So now people know, oh, we're thinking about going into a merger and acquisition with someone else. Oh, right. Oftentimes I've had particularly marketing executives who said, I put all my time and energy into marketing this brand and to building up equity, and they didn't care. They acted as
Yeah,
if it was nothing.
right.
So there are consequences to that, and you can't just go thinking, well, let's just go back to the way things were. You've now moved the mark,
Yep.
moved the goalpost, and so it's understanding that now, as leaders, you need to address this,
Yeah.
because people are now going to come up with all manner of scenarios in their head about, well, what does this mean for my future?
Yeah. That's so interesting too, because that applies to so many scenarios in life when you're
Yes.
giving up something or something is going away. I mean, relationships, all sorts of things. And, facing into what am I going to do?
Right.
how can I deal with this? How am I going to deal with this change is really, I think, an underlying human issue that we all deal with at almost every level of our life.
It's interesting that you bring that up because I researched this book for 3 years, right?
Wow.
2016 to through 2018. My book came
Hmm.
out at the end of 2019. My book launch was supposed to be in 2020, so I'm still
Yeah.
launching the book.
Good. Keep launching it.
But the reason why I bring that up is my mom passed away in March of 2020,
Mm.
and
Oh, sorry.
was thank you. She had Parkinson's, and what I'm so thankful for though is because of the work I had done in helping companies navigate transitions, I understood what I was going through with my mom. I
Oh,
understood
beautiful.
the
Yeah.
stages that you can go through and the importance of getting to acceptance. And
Hmm.
I'll have to say, Linda, it was life-saving for me because I knew why I was feeling the way I felt because of the work that I had done in helping companies through transition. So it was a strange and unexpected blessing that I already understood the feelings and was thankful to get to acceptance probably sooner than I would have normally.
Without that experience. That's beautiful, Jennifer. Just absolutely beautiful. And we're going to wrap up with tell us the 5 superpowers that women have. I'd love to
Oh,
know.
well,
I'd like an assessment. Do I have them? Give me the 5.
well, I hinted at some of them, right?
Hmm.
The first one is that women humanize things, and in
Yeah.
terms of, it's not just numbers, it's not just, and this is not to say that women aren't transactional also, but the greater tendency is to humanize things. And I think a lot of this stems from the intuition, right? Women see things that other people don't see through that intuition. And so the ability to call that out for good and for bad, right? So I'm saying these are superpowers you use for good. So women's intuition not only helps you see things and anticipate things, but equally to, as I mentioned before, right? You know, when you've probably had this, Linda, yourself, you're in a meeting and something doesn't feel right. There's
Hmm.
just your gut is telling you either the numbers don't make sense or the person talking, there's something there. Women's ability to sense that is indeed a superpower, and the both the communications and the fact that people open up to women. So
Hmm.
those superpowers are what I wanted to bring to light in my
Wow.
article. And
Wow.
what's been fun is that I've been invited to all types of women groups
Oh,
to
great.
talk about
Yeah. Nice.
powers and to help them understand here's how you use these superpowers and feel legitimate. Because, I always have women who will say, well, I don't want to tell them, oh, it's just my gut tells me this. And I said, it's a data point. You've been
Hmm.
accumulating data. Your brain is the most powerful data processor you own. So you present this as here's what I have seen repeatedly. This doesn't make sense. There's something fishy here. And 9 times out of 10, I've never had a woman say, my gut was telling me something and I was wrong. There's
Mm.
always something there. So I'd say women lean into your superpowers.
Yeah, lean into your superpowers. And, as you're saying this, it's not about me, but I always found that when you do hit on one of those things, the group already knows it, but
Yes.
nobody had the courage to say anything. And you did, one did. And that's always like a relief for the group.
Absolutely. And that's why, by the way, the gentleman who I interviewed for the article said, oh, I hope every woman reads this because when women tap into these superpowers, the deal is always better.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, Jennifer, thank you so much for doing this. And I know you having a doctor's appointment, and I know that you were so gracious to fit this into, your time schedule. And I just loved having you on and love
Thank
knowing you and having a professional relationship and friend relationship with you. And how do people get a hold of you? Because what you do is incredible.
Thank you. Well, fortunately, and it's intentional. Jennifer J. Fondrevay is my website, so you can find me there, or I hang out on LinkedIn. Uh,
Okay.
share a lot on LinkedIn. So I talk about mergers and acquisitions. I talk about lessons I learned from my mom. She was a fashion model, so I have some fun because her photos are always very sassy.
And she was beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. So that's where you will find me. I'm not multi-platform. I can only handle so much. So JenniferFondrevay.com and same.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, I have a good doctor's appointment. Thank you so much. And you're as beautiful as your mom.
Oh, thank you. Very much appreciated.
We'll see you again. Bye, everybody. Tune in again next week for another session of Next.